Okay, let's get started, guys. So, welcome everyone. Just a few housekeeping items before we kick off. As
You're
you
gonna
already,
tell us where the toilets are? You're gonna tell us where the toilets are?
yeah, the toilet is allocated just behind you. So you're probably already familiar with Zoom, so I won't bore you too much with all the detail and etiquette. But as we have a very big crowd today, could you please keep your microphone muted while listening? Catherine will help me with co-host today. So if you talk without permission, you'll be muted by her. So she's a police. If you have any questions or any concern, please put it on the chat. Catherine will monitoring the chat and answer your queries. And I am happy for all the judges to have your microphone on while listening to the students. So you don't have to turn back on and off because we're trying to go through quite a few presentations today. Okay. Before we start, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the past, the present, traditional owner of this land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk Noongar people. It is a privilege to be standing on the Whadjuk Noongar country. I also acknowledge the important relationship between the Aboriginal people and the land embodied in their spiritual, physical, social, and cultural connections as the caretaker of this country. Next, I'd like to thank to our sponsor and supporter. I'd like to give thanks to St. Pat Community Service, especially Michael Peel, who is not here today, unfortunately, to WA Shelters and End Homeless WA, especially John Burgers, who will also be a judge today. John has kindly donated his time to provide expert knowledge to us as well. We would also like to thank to the sponsor who have donated their prices and time, City Fremantle, especially Brad Pettit and the Deputy Mayor Andrew Sullivan, who will also be the judge today. Fielder Roofing and Chris Magna, Dulux Protective Coating, and Michael Filmer. I would also like to thank University of Notre Dame Fremantle School of Architecture, especially Lara McIntosh and Dr. Sarah McGann. Dr. Lara will be also a judge today. And also thank you all the mentors who have kindly donated their time: Murray Slaven, Stuart Neal, David Hattrey, Sophie Giles, Kevin Mitchell, and Plus Architectures team, Matthew Omedo, Amber Mann, and Isaac McCommon. Finally, I'd like to thank for Slaven architect teams with all the support. Without any of these people, this competition would not be possible. You probably wonder why we do the competition. We have organized this competition as part of our social sustainability ethos. Please note that we do not make profit from this competition, as many others have volunteered their time and money for this competition. We too donate our times for this competition. All the donation come from the sponsors we receive will go straight to the winners today. Homelessness is a reality that a developed society like ours should not have. Finland is an exemplar where they have completely eradicated homelessness, including rough sleeper. While it is difficult to prevent people fall into homeless crisis, it is possible to prevent these people from becoming long-term homeless. The fact shows that the longer the person is homeless, the more difficult for them to escape the cycle. Moreover, there is also an economic advantage for a society house the homeless. Many statistic and economic models shows that the cost to house somebody is outweighed many times the cost of having homeless on the street. On that note, please welcome Deputy Mayor Andrew Sullivan, who will present one of our sponsors, City Fremantle, for his speech. Andrew is also one of the judges today. Please give Andrew a round of applause.
Thank you. Sorry, just getting my mic on there. So thank you, Tuan. Also, obviously, I'd like to acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people whose traditional lands we are all dispersely meeting on today, and acknowledge the elders past, present and future. I'd also like to acknowledge the competition organisers, Murray Slaven from Slaven Architects and Tuan, and also the guests from Notre Dame, Dr. Sarah McGann, obviously, and unfortunately Michael Pugh, who I've had a lot to do with recently, can't be here today, but I have a lot of time for the work that St. Pat's do in Fremantle. So also the judging panel and our co-sponsors from Dulux and Fielders BlueScope. Obviously, these things don't happen without them. Fremantle is one of those areas where homelessness is a big issue for us. Obviously, homeless people tend to congregate in areas where it's a busy environment where they feel safe. So you don't necessarily see that many homeless people in the suburbs of Perth, but as soon as you get a built-up area, this is where they come, partly because some of the services are here and partly because the numbers of people in the streets actually provide some degree of safety for them. They're incredibly vulnerable people living on the streets. Vulnerable from their own cohort, but also vulnerable from society that unfortunately doesn't always treat them as fellow human beings. So the city of Fremantle is a very compassionate city, but at the same time, we're also trying to run a commercial centre. So there are sort of always this amazing balancing act going on. We have a whole bunch of community safety rangers, all of whom know all of the people who are sleeping rough. They know what their situations are. They know whether they are impacted by drugs or alcohol, or whether they have mental health issues, why they're out on the streets and the like. So we do have a very caring city, but it's not enough. What's important is providing a home and also the wraparound services that go with that for homeless people. And that's something that we've been working on. And of course, with COVID-19, everything has become so much more acute. And of course, the great fear for us is waiting for the end of September when government support is likely to switch off. And we anticipate seeing a lot of additional people in strife and potentially more homeless people, simply because their situation has radically changed. And of course, as was pointed out in the process of the information that you would have read as part of this competition, it's often people's changes in circumstances that actually result in that first moment of homelessness. And of course, it goes downhill very rapidly from there. And the only way out of that is to radically change the circumstance and make sure it's a comprehensive change that they can start to rebuild their lives with the support of the whole community. So it's going to be a very interesting process today. Obviously, this is an architectural competition. The idea of it being having to be absolutely something that can be built is something that we can put aside. We're looking for ideas. We're looking for responses to the situation. So I'm very keen to see how it goes today. But time is of the essence. So let's stop torturing all the competition entrants and start judging.
Thank you, Andrew. And last but not least, one of our directors also being a judge today, Bill Coe. Bill, could you raise your hand? You can unmute yourself now. You've now become a judge from this moment in time. Without further ado, let's start the student presentations. To all the students, I will play your presentation from my screen, and I will call your name for your turn. Please turn your microphone on ready when I call your name. And just let me know when you want the next slides or going back to previous slides. I will just control that for you. Okay. So the first groups is Alec and Nick, Alex James and Nicholas Threes. Could you please turn on your microphone and let me know you are here?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, good. Thanks, Guy. So this is group number 4.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Everybody see okay?
Yep.
All the judges, you can have your microphone turned on now. You can. So we will have a question after the presentation in exact 4 minutes. I'm just going to put my timer on. Just be aware, I'm be very strict with the time, so we just try to get through a lot today, so I won't be soft. All right, guys, Alex and Nick, you can start.
Yeah, okay. So homelessness is a complex issue within Australia today. The backgrounds and situations associated with each homeless individual prove to be equally complex. It is impossible to generalise or stereotype a typical individual, as people experience vastly different obstacles. Navigating the historical context, our proposal includes a cantilevered balcony over the footpath, which draws on the abundance of covered walkways and balconies prevalent in the local Fremantle context, also providing protection from the weather and elements for residents and visitors alike. Next slide, please.
Whilst creating a piece of new architecture that responds to the current context, it remains important to respect the history and urban fabric of Fremantle. The site plan highlights the abundance of corrugated roofs throughout the West End. Corrugated sheet metal is used in our proposal in response to this as well, and for its affordability. Access to northern light has been achieved through openings on the western facade. These openings have been strategically screened with steel mesh in order to allow sun to penetrate into the home in the winter, whilst providing some protection in the summer, along with year-round privacy. Next slide, thanks.
So 13 Muat Street provides a home for the previously homeless. A space for long-term rehabilitation is established through a critical deconstruction and reworking of those aspects that make a typical Australian house a home. This creates a spatial experience that is clearly that of a home, a permanent space for ongoing living and not just a temporary shelter. Elements such as the back fence are reimagined in our proposal as a protective mesh facade, controlling light, noise and privacy in a manner reminiscent of the typical suburban back fence. Next slide, please.
Spatially, the two key outdoor spaces are seen as representations of the typical suburban yards. The balcony, reminiscent of a front yard, semi-private with the potential for interaction with the community and street, and the rear roof deck operating as a reconstructed backyard, a more private space able to accommodate hobbies and activities without the street looking in. Next slide, thank you.
In seeking to develop a proposal that can accommodate the full range of potential inhabitants and their potential situations, we have proposed 2 oppositional case study characters to demonstrate the flexibility of the internal planning, which can facilitate both typical functions expected in a home and any other alternate functions. Our first character is Kelly, aged 24, with a 3-year-old daughter, Sadie. Kelly has experienced some trauma in her life, and as such, she may prefer the smaller, more enclosed bedroom to the rear of the first floor, in which she can share her sleeping arrangements with her daughter. While the top floor bedroom, which is larger, could be used as an art studio. And there is provision in the coming decades for Sadie, her daughter, to inhabit the top level bedroom with the potential for a kitchenette and ensuite. Overall, the planning is intended to accommodate a changing requirements over time and provide multiple spatial arrangements. Next slide, thanks.
Our second character, Stan, has been long-term homeless with his best friend and dog, Peppy, for the duration of 4 years. He's a keen cyclist and enjoys building and dismantling bicycles. The reimagined backyard shed, now forming the ground floor storage space, houses his bicycle collection. The open plan living room is transformed into a bicycle operating theatre, and first floor bedroom becomes a guest room or storage. Stan prefers the top floor bedroom, which offers good cross ventilation to the sea breeze and allows him to occasionally sleep on the balcony, in keeping with his dislike of enclosed spaces. And finally, the roof deck is Peppy's realm. This space, the reconstructed backyard, allows Peppy to run freely without a leash and enjoy the afternoon sunlight whilst chewing on a bone. Next slide, thanks.
Structurally, the project is designed to incorporate prefabricated engineered timber modules and using simple finishes such as natural plywood, tiles, transparent polycarbonate and a light mesh are used in response to maintaining budget. Consideration has been made for sustainability and facilitating assembly on a restricted site through the use of modular construction. And next slide, thanks.
Contrasting the surrounding architecture, the facade remains contextually sensitive by continuing the strong horizontal lines and vertical bays of buildings adjacent in the underlying structure of the mesh facade and carefully proportioned openings. Next slide, thanks.
So finally, 13 Moat is proposed as a contemporary recreation of a typical Australian home within the context of housing the homeless. And overall, the project creates a place for living, a place for rehabilitation, and most importantly, a home. And that's us done.
Perfect. Thanks, Guy. All the judges, please raise your questions for the students.
Tuan, I have one, just a little bit of a detail one, if that's okay.
Yes.
The gist of the students, in terms of the cantilevered balcony and its screening and the like, and its relationship to the existing heritage building on the left. Are you comfortable that you've got the resolution right there?
Yes, we are, because if you look at the street facing south, you notice there's not a lot of balconies or enclosed walkway space at all. And in our opinion, the street is somewhat not in the proportion of the human scale, essentially. And looking a lot around Fremantle, there's a lot of prominent balconies, covered seating areas and the like, especially on the main coffee strip. So we chose to incorporate that balcony to kind of bring that element back into the streetscape of the West End, which is otherwise largely inhuman, especially on the weekends and such, and also just to provide shelter from the sun and elements during the day and as you enter the structure. So yeah, we are confident with that.
I think personally I've been caught on the same street in the rain, nowhere to hide. So I think it provides that little bit of respite for pedestrians in case the weather changes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, please?
Probably just one question. You didn't have a shower upstairs.
No, we didn't. And that was mostly due to budget considerations and considering that one bathroom was potentially enough if this unit was typically designed to house between 1 and 2 people. There is room there on where the kitchenette goes. You could potentially swap that small space out with a shower and just have a single kitchen downstairs. If you look at the isometric or this one even, yeah. As you can see in the bottom plan, the toilet is to the left and that whole room is potentially could accommodate an entire wet area with a shower to the right, if that was something that was needed.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to keep it, be considerate of the budget and realistic in the sense that, you know, the cost of 1 bathroom versus 2 bathrooms is quite a difference.
Bill, Lara and John, do you have any more questions?
I do, and this might just be me being not familiar because I haven't been involved in the process that has been going on all week, and very impressed with everybody's outcomes in a week's time. That's amazing. But I just had a question that builds on Andrew's regarding the balcony. Was there an opportunity to, or did you explore shifting the building back from the street? It's very hard up against that edge. The front door is right there.
Well, we actually had a bit of a walk around the streets, and I think pretty much directly across the road, there's a property between a laneway, and access is at the front of that laneway. And it has a similar sort of interface. So it's like this mesh gate, this door enclosed. And then it's sort of, we found it quite beautiful in the sense that you don't actually notice it when you're walking down the street. You only necessarily notice it if you're looking for it, like we were. So it's sort of this, we sort of expect it to be this, oh, there's a car park behind there. This is just a mesh gate. But little do they know is that this is the front door. This is the threshold between private and public for that person, and the threshold between what is the public's and what is their space.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
No, I don't have any questions. I think the flexible use of the living spaces for different scenarios is well done.
Yeah, I think it's very good. You've done a lot in a week, guys. I particularly enjoyed the way you've separated the degree of private and public spaces throughout the building. Your organisation of that's really nice. I like the fact you've overhung the building into the street. You've tried to interact with the city and the urban setting. I think it's a really good job.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Okay, shall we move on to the next one? Okay, Marie May and Ruta. Is Ruta here? I got a message from Marie that he's not here yet. Marie, can you talk?
I know, sorry, Tuan, he's not here yet.
Okay, I put you down to the last, okay? We move to
Okay.
the next group, which is group 7, Hendrik Liu and Wang Chung.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna start yours now.
Yeah, you can go. Probably not. Bye. Okay.
All right, are we all see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, fire away.
Hello, everyone. We are CL Studio. Thank you for your presence, and we would like to introduce our proposal. Thank you, Joy, for navigating the presentation slide. Our client, Jane, is an artist with 7-year-old boy, Jerry. Jane studied art as major, but she got married after graduate and became a housewife. But she went through a broken marriage and became homeless for 6 months. She decided to restart her life by producing artwork for supporting her life. Focusing on her needs, we designed a house where she can live and work together. Next slide, please. The front sawtooth facade performed as a canvas for her to draw while letting pattern downline in as shown in the east elevations. This provides Jen a platform to expose her work to the public and give back to Freon by enhancing the urban scape. Next slide. The house humbly offset from the street to preserve the heritage detail of neighboring building and gain a degree of privacy for Jane. Next slide. The skylight letting daylight in, casting different pattern light along the day. We use plywood as main interior texture to chemistry warm atmosphere within. A wind catcher mechanism to ventilate the interior space. Insulated walls and slabs to trap heat inside. Next slide. 2-story interior space with double high volume to enhance the overall living experience while separating private and shared sector. We designed the house with sustainable mechanism installed to cope with her budget. Prefab modular construction used for buildability and transportation concerns. Next slide. Secure private bicycle rack installed at the arrival in ground floor for the owner and visitor use. The dark and narrow entrance staircase from the ground floor leads to a double height volume for transitional homecoming experience. Next slide. and one will emphasize the interior design intention.
Thanks, Eric. Let's look at the first floor. The tatami area serves as a meditation space for Jane and playzone for Jerry. The full height glass wall create a transitional space and greenhouse effect for thermal comfort. Next page, thanks. The wall serves as a gallery where Jane can hang her artworks on. There is no partition between kitchen, living, and workshop area to let Jane has a flexible working space. Next page. Moving up to the second level, graced by the low-high window exhibiting the greenery in the garden while separating the two bedrooms. In the kid bedroom, the integrated bed allowing Jerry to have more space to move around. In Jane's bedroom, we designed a window allowing her to overlook into her sanctuary. Next page, thanks. The house is designed for people like Jane, being abused and segregated by the crucial society and community. As a woman, she had to work thrice harder than men to get recognition. This house serves her as a new starting point where she can restart her life and regain her confidence and happiness back with her own pace. We present you this, the Resandra project. Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. That was fast. Any question, please, from the judge?
I've got one. If you could just explain to us how that facade works and how the artwork is applied and removed and renewed.
The artwork itself is painted by Jane. We designed it to paint by Jane. So when she wants to renew it, can be brushed up with another layer of paint like street arts. So that's our intention. And also looking at the ground on the floor plan, you actually can see that sawtooth facade that actually having glass panel that letting lights in.
And access for Jane while she's painting, was that a consideration?
We considered using stairs, having stairs for her, like where she can draw when during her drawing, he can using that stair as a access to the facade.
Tuan, could you just go back to the floor plans, please?
This is a ground floor. No, this is a first floor, sorry.
So Tuan, I had a question, if that's okay.
Yes.
And I don't mean to pick on the minutiae, but sometimes that's a good way of trying to get into your heads and see what you're thinking. Two things. The kitchen has a bar fridge, and I'm wondering whether Jane is going to survive in terms of buying, food and like just with the bar fridge. So it's a question about getting into what her needs are in that sense. And also the other question I had was the very large skylight, and whether from an environmental point of view, how you felt that was going to work in terms of heat control and excessive heat coming in summer.
We actually integrated a shading system, but it wasn't shown in the graphic here. So that's a shading system, operative shading system for that skylight to control light coming in. And for the kitchen's concern, that because it's on the street and there's a lot of access to groceries and stuff, we think that having a smaller kitchen also is also about concern about her budget as well, like how minimum we can go and how and also provide that living experience for her.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question that once again sort of builds on Andrew's comment in part about the skylight and your ventilation strategy, and I was just wondering if you could explain that, but also you mentioned modular construction, and I was wondering if you could give a bit more information about that, please.
So the modular construction, looking at this graph, is that the A plus B and C is the one that builds a custom build that builds on site, and then D is a modular. So they actually combine together and being transported in a truck, maybe one or two transport truck, like those moving house transportation large trucks. And then the E one, yep.
Sorry, the reason for that?
The reason is that we also inspired, if this house was built in other site, like relocated to other site, it can be moved easily. And also if this was built for more than one unit, that would become a urban activating the urban gallery kind of experience.
Any other question, please?
Sorry, I had a question about the street art. What are the issues around having street art? And I mean, maybe Andrew is better at answering, but just in terms of, what's actually applied up there, what does the art look like, and how long it needs to stay there, and just the maintenance of it, or the changing of it. What are some of the requirements that associated with having that strong sort of public presence in that art form?
Sorry, is that a question? Or?
Well, yeah. I'm just asking, what would be some of the issues about putting public artwork that would need to be considered? I mean, I don't know what the regulations are in the city of Fremantle, and what onus would be on the individual owner around what form it takes, what it looks like, the condition of it.
Oh, we actually haven't. We go through like this particular house for Jane is her expression up towards like how she want to show her. Because artists, they always have their life, their background, so that's what affect their art piece, like how it becomes positive or negative. But we also have to go through that council, like approving that that positive vibe for Frio. It's not like always bringing that emotional negative. We want to provide those positive vibe into Frio as well, like bringing more foreign tourism and boost up the tourism and also create that vibe. Yeah.
And just for John's benefit, it's the councillor here, that would be perfectly acceptable. There are examples of it elsewhere in Fremantle. The only rules that really apply is that it's artwork in a public place, which needs to respect the diversity of people in our community and not be offensive. So that would be the only reason why something like that would be objected to. But the ephemeral nature of it is really interesting, and I think that's quite exciting.
Oh, one more thing that other than the big square that for this diagram is skylight, the other small square is actually solar panel that we integrate for a sustainable mechanism that helps to reduce the billing fee, like electric bill.
So the left one is a solar panel and the right one is a skylight, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If there's no more question, we move on to group number 8, Blue Sky, Hui Nguyen and Yoon Ki Kim.
Oh yeah, hello.
Hello, okay. I'm just gonna open a new one. Is everybody see panel? All right, fire away, guys.
Yeah. Permanent hostels provide homeless people with a means of assessing necessities, which can provide a key role in recovery. Benefits: a bank account, seeing a GP, even getting a driving license or library card. The key design task of this competition is giving ownership of space to homeless people, so they would think of them as linked to towns, streets, and local communities. Providing a permanent house is like giving a sense of belonging, which can be described as a fundamental human motivation. Next, please. So to give some motivation and confidence to them, we try to design the house to get natural lighting throughout the day. With the good quality of natural lighting, they would feel secure and warm in the house. And also, we want them to invite their friends or neighbors to the terrace garden for social recovery. Next, please. The site is sitting on uni campus, so we propose a small garden area to make some like social connection to communicate with young people. Next, please. The house is designed for a couple with one bedroom in open layout. One of key design features is the Juliet balcony. Juliet balcony was developed in Europe where there is no space for balcony in a small house. So the idea of the balcony is when the balcony is opened, the whole internal open space will be like an outdoor balcony area. So they can make internal space like outdoor space when they want. Next, please. The idea of terrace garden is for social recovery. So the residents can have social connection with friends under the pergola. Next, please. The footprint of the site is just 5 meters. So we try to have high volume in living room and bathroom. Next, please. We try to design the facade with the line of existing building. Next, please. Elevation from outdoor sitting space. Next, please. This is a rear elevation. Next, please. This is rendered image of facade at eye level. Next, please. The stair for the garden is separated from internal space, so visitors don't need to get through the internal space. I believe separating social space from private space would be important for who has mental illness, because they would need more own private space to feel secure. Next, please. Next, please. The main idea of this house is getting natural lighting, is getting natural lighting throughout the day. And the skylight is designed to make living room and bedroom warm. Next, please. The high volume of spaces would give some delight experience of natural lighting. Therefore, this house, I hope homeless people would have a sense of belonging and would be able to come back to society soon. Thank you for listening.
Perfect. Thanks, Guy. This is right on time. Any question, please?
Yeah, I do, Tuan.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. And Ki, I was wondering, yours seems one of the few that is where the living spaces or the built area is limited to one floor. And I'm wondering how you achieve that and the importance of that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it clearly, sorry.
Yours is a response that is limited to just one floor. Most people have two. So I'm wondering what you've done differently.
Yeah, it's because I just want to, in the section on there is a window on the existing building. So we try to keep the existing window to remain the window at the, yes.
Yes, no, I think that I think that it's good to have it just as a single floor. I guess if I could be a bit cheeky, I wonder what you've left out.
Ah, okay.
If
And
everybody else has gone 2 stories.
yeah, to remain the existing window, we try to have the V shape of roof, so we can remain the existing window.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got a question. I'm intrigued by the relationship of the staircase and the fact that it's all outside going up to the roof terrace as well, and the existing courtyard that's part of Notre Dame. And it feels very much like the front garden, you know, the approach to the front door. Can you explain that, your thinking in that a little bit more?
Yeah. So actually, this house is for recovery. So we try to design the terrace garden, and it's open to public. So we put the terrace garden in the street side, so they may have more chance to interact with outside, and also other people can see the um, green on the terrace garden. That's the idea of.
I think it's a nice little design. I like the way you've I like your facade and the way you've tried to transition in between the scales of the 2 existing buildings. Could you just talk a little bit about whether or not you think you've provided adequate security to the house, given you talked a lot about comfort and security, and from what I can see, anyone can walk straight up to the front door on the 1st floor. And
Yep.
and I'm also wondering why you chose not to provide any shelter to that staircase.
Oh, okay. So can you go to next slide?
Yep.
So just next to the door, main entrance door, there is a fence gate.
Yep.
So we try to have like we try to make the terrace garden as a private space, but with the fence gate. Yes.
I might just have one last question. The bathroom has its access door straight off the large living space. How do you feel that works in relation to privacy and the like? It's just a small issue, but it's one that could easily be resolved a different way. But I just wondered whether that felt right.
Okay, bathroom doesn't need like natural lighting, so we just put the bathroom to the wall. So, and also.
And you, Kim, I think the question is about the door. Why is the door open from the bathroom to the living room and not to the bedroom?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so actually, we don't wanna to keep the privacy in bedroom. When the guest or friends comes to house, I just wanna make people to access the bathroom, but they don't need to get through the bedroom. So yeah, they would have some privacy in the bedroom, but
Yeah.
it's open to living room.
It's a good answer.
And just one last thing, something to think about in the future. I like the Juliet balcony. It is a nice way to provide a connection with the outdoor space without handing over some of your floor area to an external balcony. But just think about the door system you use. I question whether or not the kitchen would be usable when you've got your balcony doors open. Access to the fridge looks a little bit cramped. Maybe some sliding doors or a smaller door which folded all the way back against the wall would work a bit better next time.
Actually, we thought about like having this sliding door for Juliet balcony, but I want to make this space fully opened. So I just use the like swing balcony door so they can have fully open to public. Yeah, actually that is the idea of having this swing door. Yeah, but actually it's true. Yeah, we need to think about the freeze opening and the clearance for kitchen area.
They can be open 180 instead of 90 degree.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, if not, we move to the next group, which is group 9. Connor Simpsons and Justin Kasumata Yu. Are you guys there? Please unmute. Oh, good.
Connor can't make it today. He's at work, so it'll just be me presenting. Is that all right, Tuan?
That's fine. Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, fire away, Justin.
Right, cool. So our project's called Mum's House, and this project's about a young woman who has suffered to the spiraling effect of both trauma and mental health associated with domestic abuse in her past. And so alcoholism has drove her homeless and abandoned by her family, displaced by society. And so our design wants to create a home with permanence, reconnecting her with her interests, and a place for her to kind of step out of this step out of homelessness and re-engage with the community. And so the aim of the house is not only to act as a place for her to gather with social workers and health professionals, but also as a stable home to regain custody of her daughter. So just move to the next page. So our design concept was to create a home out of the space that is unused. And although this is simply repeating the brief, we wanted to approach the design through a method of subtracting what space is used. So next slide. So whether that be by allowing information from the street, next slide. Car access, next slide. Parking, next slide. The turning circle for cars to enter. Light to the cafe or the kitchen area. The neighboring window, and next slide. And what is left remains a space that is, quote, unused. So, and whilst maintaining the functionality of the surrounding context. Next slide, please. So how the house works, it's zoned through what we're calling the 3 levels of self. And so at the ground floor, we have the public self, where there's an entrance and convertible shopfront, which she can sell her sculptures and artwork. That's one of her interests. And moving up to the first floor, we have the semi-public self. So that's the kitchen, dining, a lounge, and also a place to meet with social workers, health professionals. And lastly, up the top, we have the private self. So the bedroom for the child and the mother, and bathroom, as well as a roof terrace just on the back there. So next slide, please. So in section, you can see as you walk in from the street, we have this little area where you can put your shoes down and sell some of our sculptures on this stair that we've designed. And as you walk up the stairs, we have a kitchen with a full window that's opened and dining space. There's also a little void underneath the stairs that allows the height and dimensions for a washer and a dryer. And if you move across to the right of the building, we have a living space that's convertible via an operable curtain. So you can have a wall that you can draw across to separate the kitchen and living. Walking up the stairs again, we then have the roof terrace, and the first door is a bathroom with a skylight. and the child's bedroom, and then the master bedroom. I just want to make note that it's really important in this drawing to show how we've tried to hammer down on this unused space, even to the point where spaces that are like underneath the stairs and also voids above the stairs that can be recycled and reused for other purposes like storage. So yeah, so we have the next drawing. So in plan, you can once again see this entryway space that can be converted to a small shop front. And we've also redesigned the gate so that it functions with the space and also respects the existing traffic. Next drawing. So going up the stairs onto the second floor, you can see the kitchen dining on the left with the large window, a storage shelving system in this little corridor, and to the right we have the living. And so it was important to have this cross ventilation across the site as the wind goes through it in summer, but also be able to close it and still have access from the sun by these two highlights on the north face.
Need to hurry up, Justin.
Okay, next drawing, please. So just going upstairs, you can see the arrangement of the rooms, and it was important to connect the bathroom as the first room to the living. So if you had social workers, that you're still able to maintain privacy in the living space, but also have the bathroom. So last image. Yep. So just want to finish on the note that the resulting volume and form, I guess, of our space is manifested by the carving away of space. And so we just wanted to show a different kind of approach to the Housing First initiative and how that can be applied across the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more slide, just if you want to pop it up. Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, any question, please?
Probably one. The second bedroom. Do you want to just sort of talk your way through that a little bit in terms of its spatial arrangement and capacity and how you think that works?
Is this the child's bedroom or the?
Yeah.
Oh, the child's bedroom. So she's quite a young girl, so she's about 8 years old. So we just created a bedroom that she could open up and have a desk with access to natural light, and just a single bedroom on the right. Yeah, is that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's obviously very, very small and narrow, but that doesn't necessarily make it wrong. So I was just sort of trying to get a bit clearer idea how you saw her and the space.
Yeah, so actually, because the section cuts through about 1.5 meters, and there's also this angle, so it appears that the room, I guess, is slightly smaller, but there's actually about maybe 750 mil kind of more wall space. And so there is that illusion that the space will feel larger than what is represented in this drawing if you're in the actual space, because there's this kind of pitch that goes up.
Yeah. No, it has a nice cubby house feel about it, which children often love. So I just was wondering about, you know, that thinking.
Yeah, it was definitely like one of our initial kind of ideas for the house was to create it quite small and have that feeling of everything being kind of reachable, and also like it was really important getting the sizes of spaces and the connection between spaces to a high level of detail, I think.
The other one is that there's a gap between the heritage building on the left and your building, which was an interesting response. Not everybody did that. You want to talk through that?
Yeah, so I think it was really about just respecting and kind of physically showing the respect for the context and allowing that wall to breathe. And that was mainly the main idea. And there is actually, if you go into the detail of it, there is actually the cornices that wrap around, so that if the building wasn't built about 300 mil away from the wall, you'd actually have to kind of destroy that important heritage of that building. So it was important to move it across.
Have you thought about what a 2-story 30-centimetre gap will look like after 10 years? What it might fill up with, or what might start wanting to move into that space? It's unusual to design in awkward spaces like that deliberately.
Yeah, I guess not. We didn't really like think too much about that, but we did have this idea that that amount of space could allow for like rain, the rain to fall through and things like this. But yeah, I guess not really. But there was thought behind the design being split across, but
Yeah.
not necessarily what might grow in there or anything like that.
Justin, I've just got a rather pragmatic question about your thoughts about how this might be constructed. I noticed that there's a few cantilevers going on and not so much support shown on the ground floor.
Yeah, so we were thinking that it could be a steel structure, and that this bottom floor in the section would be a concrete reinforcement to extend over to the first floor, and so that the kind of the walls of the first floor and the second floor would be a steel structure, but essentially this kind of half of the building is the foundation in itself, and that was the kind of thinking behind the design, to also allow this access for the car. So it's really important for this cantilever to allow the parallel access, because if you have support here on the left, it might make it quite difficult to execute realistic parking in that space.
Yeah, thank you. I get the feel because you've taken kind of a Tetris approach to how you've kind of subtracted and squeezed everything in. So yeah, thank you.
What were the materials you were thinking of?
Oh yeah, so externally we were going to use that galvanized steel, and that was really about making reference to this kind of Fremantle shed and Fremantle material palette, and I don't know, I kind of get this feeling of like sailing or something, even though it's not really the material used for sailing. But yeah, that was the kind of approach, and we wanted to have material that would also reflect light into the existing spaces behind it, which is a space for staff members to gather and have lunch and things like that. So it was important.
Thanks.
Just have a question about the shop front. What was your thoughts around what sort of activity you could run in that shop front? Because it's quite compact, isn't it?
Yeah, so the idea of it was to open up this blind and have a shop front and open this door. And if you go to the first drawing, please, Tuan, of the plans. Wait, yeah. Next one. Yeah, that one as well. So yeah, in this one, you could open the door and then you could have this space to display just on the left of the stairs. We made this double stair that could act as a shelving kind of system to display her artwork. And we were also considering ways of also opening up this, the angled wall on the left, potentially as well. But yeah.
I really like the way your presentation started, carving up the building envelope like a block of cheese and saying, we can't build here, we can't build there, and you were left with an envelope. But don't you think an extra 30 centimetres in that storeroom or in the child's bedroom would be really handy?
So obviously for presentation purposes, that's not literally what we did, like just cut away. There was so much. There's so much more going on there, and it's not like we just simply cut off 2 meters because we wanted to. That was just a way of representing the kind of approach and our solution.
I understand why you did it, and I think it's a really good way to start off a design. But I think you know, one of the strengths of the design is you've tried to squeeze as much out of the space as you can, but then you've just gone and locked and what I think an unnecessary 30 centimetres off your building. And I know why you tried to do it. You're trying to respect the heritage building and some of the cornices, but you could have done it in a different way. I think next time, if you're building up against a 2-story wall with no windows or no discernible features, you should maximise the available space you've got, because it's already a very small site.
Having said that, Bill, Justin did mention the breathability of the old wall.
Yeah.
So to be fair to Justin, I think he should be allowed to, expand on his thoughts on that.
Thanks, Andrew.
So Justin, if you want to, was that a consideration, the conservation of that wall?
Yeah, I think that we really wanted that to like kind of be shown from the street, and then also let this house kind of be an example of the potential, once again, for the Housing First initiative, and a different approach that isn't about creating lots of modular and repetitive homes, but an individual home specific to the site, but also really about respecting what's existing. And I think it speaks a lot about that, even that little gap that's really small, maybe dead, speaks a lot more about than just maybe a rat that might live there. It's speaking about being really close up to the surrounding buildings, but not affecting them in a way.
Yep. So I think probably the issue there is not the space is there, it's just that it's not accessible.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I have a building in the West End that has an exactly similar space, and I think the others are right to worry about the pigeons that are going to be nesting in there and the foot depth of pigeon poo that will build up there over a century. However, that's a detail, and you probably could have opened up to it in a way that could have been quite interesting. Up above that, I don't think it's an issue. It's really at the bottom of those spaces.
That's true.
Pretty. It's amazing what gets in there.
Alrighty, shall we move to the next one?
Great. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Justin. Now with group number 10, Akivision, Julian and Baron. Julian Kisling and Baron Angebert.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're here. Okay.
Perfect.
So where's the Can I start off on the second slide? Yep, that's good. Can I start off on the second slide, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, fire away.
All right, great. Okay, so this is an excerpt from an interview that we did with our client, Mary. So she says, "We love our house. It suits us perfectly. There's space for us to be together, but we can also close off other spaces when we need to and have some time to ourselves. We have family come over every now and again. They usually stay in the study. So we just fold down the bed in the study and it's a perfect bedroom. After all we've been through, the best part of the house is just how natural it feels. When it's hot, we can open up the balcony windows and the breeze just flows through. The timber finishes just make it that much more visually appealing. It's really soothing. We don't use that much power either. We get heaps of daylight in during the day, so there isn't much need for artificial lighting. We don't use heating either. In the winter, the brick wall on the south side gets warmed up by the sun, keeping the house warm in the evening, and it's great. When it's summer, we can just open up the house and let the breezes come in, and that keeps us cool enough. It's all made out of local materials too. The steel frame was manufactured just down the road, and all the timber comes from WA. Okay, so the furniture is from Sweden, but nobody's perfect. But the best thing about the house is that there aren't too many internal walls, so that if we need to change things in the future, we can do that. The steel frame supports the walls so that the walls and the windows can be changed as well. So the house is just so Fremantle. The face bricks and the timber feel like they were just found there, and the black steel frame too just reminds me of those big shipping container ships you see in the harbour. So if we ever need to move anywhere, we can just lift up the house, remove the frame and take it where we want. But I really don't see us moving. We walk heaps, so we connect with our neighbours on the street and from the balconies. And the house gets people asking about what St. Patrick's does and other initiatives such as Housing First as well. It's fantastic. We love our house. And next slide. Do you want to talk, Jaco?
Yeah. Next slide, Tuan. Thanks. Approaching the site from Moet Street with a view down the driveway, showing the eastern facade, allowing for effective sunrises. Second image shows the viewing from the site down the driveway toward Moet Street. Approaching the stairs for entry into the home, the steel structure is reminiscent of the cranes lifting up containers in Fremantle. Next slide, please. Entering the home, viewing the living and dining area, Jarrah window frames and glass louvers for ventilation. The Jarrah roofing allows for mental and emotional stimulation as well as the ventilation. Second image shows walking up the stairs into the bedroom, vertical louvers providing privacy from adjacent windows while allowing for adequate winter sun. This is morning sun on the eastern facade. Next slide, Tom. Back down the stairs, past the dining table, past the bathroom, dining down the aisle into the study, allowing for effective morning sun after getting a coffee and Frio. Second image, back down the aisle, looking toward the west, the open louvers on the western facade allows for good ventilation from the Frio Doctor sea breezes. On the left, the brick wall, the thermal mass allows for effective heating throughout the night. Next image, one. The night render shows all the materiality working together to provide a mentally and emotionally stimulating space from being on the street. Mary and Jason have asked for an effective space for healing after the traumas of being on the street. Next image. The Jarrah structural roof with corrugated sheeting. First floor CLT walls that's provided from Crosslam in Perth with oil ply exterior clad and custom orb on the bottom portion. The ground floor is the same and the steel framing 100 by 100 tubing forming a strong triangular joint. Who wouldn't want to live here?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to live here? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good, Tom.
So we did a bit of hand drawing and a bit of digital stuff, Murray.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
That's how we work.
I really like the hand drawing. I think that's really good. Tell the stories.
Nice.
You guys finished the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any question, please?
Yeah, could we just have a bit of background about your client and what their situation was prior to moving into here?
So Jason, he was working at a packing factory, and then after the recession hit, he lost his job. And Mary herself, she was also a hairdresser, but because of mental health issues, she kind of lost her job. And so they fell into hard times together, and they've been on the street for a few months, and yeah, approached St. Pat's, and that's how we got to them.
Okay. And what ways does this design attempt to reconnect them with society and back to they're transitioning from a bout of homelessness, and how does this house help that process?
Yeah, I believe this this house helps that process pretty well because it gives them a routine. So in the morning they can experience some effective sunlight, and in the afternoon they can experience some sunset. And I believe that the mental and emotional health that that they can experience will actually allow them to slowly heal. So on the our clients have said that the street have been so traumatic that there was no space for mental and emotional stimulation. It's just too traumatic, and we believe that this space will be a resting house for that time being. And Jason developing sleep apnea while on the street due to mental stress. The ventilation allows for good sleeping habits throughout the night, and during the daytime, with the effect of sunlight, they can heal slowly and give them a routine of morning and afternoon, and as well as night, to slowly get back into society and have good mental and emotional health to get back into it.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So I've got a question about materiality, and maybe it's because I look a little bit like the guy who lives there with the coffee on the balcony. I feel like I can relate to him, particularly this morning. But in terms of my grumpiness, the use of the brickwork in something that feels very transportable, it almost feels like there's a face brick wall inside my caravan. So I'm just interested, I mean, I know why you've probably wanted to use bricks, but is it the right choice? So I'd like to hear an expansion of that.
I suppose given the time, we probably should have thought about that a little bit more in terms of the transportability. So I guess in hindsight, you could use something more suitable, perhaps like a concrete panel system.
So what, I guess the question is sort of, so what was the feeling you were trying to achieve by using that particular material? So
yeah, well, that's what I was going to come to next. So yeah, well, a lot of the materials, the palette is kind of reminiscent of Fremantle and like the materials from around the Fremantle area. So bricks have been pretty common, and even the like on the floor of the car parking area and the heritage building as well. So I think that's what we were really trying to go for with that.
But there's a contingency plan for that. There's precast concrete walling. So basically this wall also provides what Julian just said, and it provides a thermal mass wall, actually. The main reason is the thermal mass wall providing heating throughout the night. But it can always be replaced by a timber wall, just like the other walls. And yeah, as well as a concrete paneling, which makes it prefab safe, I guess.
Yeah.
I have a question, guys. I'm looking at a couple of the drawings, and I think the section shows, to me, this feels very generous in space and light, and I'm intrigued by the construction techniques that you're using and the fact that the roof is lifted off. Am I reading that right? There's a clerestory around there.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at your 3D AXO from the car park, looking back at it, and I just have you've shown a very empathetic response to the situation that your clients, if you like, are in. And I'm just wondering about privacy. And while it's great to have all this view and sun and everything like that, I wonder if, given that car park and also the courtyard there, about people looking in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the idea of the balconies was in one part to help reduce that visual confrontation with the outside. So if there was no balcony and you had such generous windows, it would be a bit confronting and maybe not as visually comfortable. I think the balustrades should probably be a little bit higher to be fair. So viewing it from the bottom, it will be like a little bit more sheltered. So that's probably a bit of a design flaw, but yeah, the general reasoning behind the balconies was that kind of visual privacy, but also if our client is outside and, you know, wants to have a conversation with someone down on the street for whatever reason, they still can do that. I feel like it's a nice middle ground. I've seen that a lot in a few houses in Fremantle, like people will still be up on their top floor balcony going about their business, but you can see them, and it doesn't seem to bother them at all. But yeah, so the middle ground is what I was going for, what we were going for there, wasn't it?
Yeah, the clients have asked for many windows, but I think there's an opportunity for thermal blinds to just simply shut off as many windows as you want. And the adjacent windows on the other side of the building, the bedroom is already having those vertical louvers, which allows for blocking of sight, but also the windows on the ground floor. That's a lot of windows. That's very understandable. But I think thermal blinds or whichever blinds can block however many windows is needed.
Thanks. I'm also going to say you only had a week, so for everybody, good job.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question around the entrance stairs. Just tell me a little bit about the safety aspect that you've thought about in the way that's been designed.
Yeah, that was something we actually missed out on the heat of thinking of everything. We missed out on that, and we only realised that, I guess, last minute, that we didn't put any hand railings. Which
if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But I think you're talking about more the orientation of the stairs, like why the stairs the way they are.
Yeah, so the stairs take up a car parking space, which we thought the cars park there anyway. They take up that space anyway. So if we had a staircase to take up that space, it'll stop a person from getting hit with a runaway car. There can always be like a barrier around the outside of that car park, which can be planters and allow for effective usage of that.
Yeah, I mean, from a visual point of view for the traffic that goes through that laneway, I think having the stairs there was almost better. That doesn't have like a blind spot. Like it's easy for when that electric bollard is down, if it ever is, it's easy for two cars to pass each other in a way. And I think from a safety point of view, it's almost better to have the stairs back there, provided you added some hand railings and maybe a little bit more defined client space with some storage, or as you said, planters or something like that. So yeah, that was our reasoning, is like we found that was the best orientation for them.
Sure. Had you thought about a gate at the front of the stairs? You know, I mean, if you had railings or a side to the stairs, had you thought about a sort of a gate to try and stop for anyone coming to the property other than, you know, being at the bottom of the steps?
Yeah, like we saw in Northbridge a similar design where the whole thing was caged. The stairs is basically caged. We were thinking of that and having a steel door, a steel mesh door to actually open upon the stairs. So the idea is to have it all shut off, like a steel mesh around the stairs actually, and the gate. Yeah.
Thanks.
Just hasn't been there.
Any more questions, please? Okay, if no more questions, let's move on to next group. Group 11, Studio SN, Nadia and Shinhu.
Yeah, yes, that's us. Here.
Thank you. Hang on.
Okay. These are slides. I'm going to bring it up. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nadia, and this is Sindhu, and we are Studio SN. Today, we're going to present a homeless residents project as part of the inFILL student competition, the Forever Sand Shelter. Next. Beforehand, let's just look into the current condition of the homeless in Australia. To begin, homelessness can mean more than a lack of physical shelter and the means of sustaining life. Homelessness can be experienced by an individual being excluded from certain parts of society due to difference in social, cultural, or psychological conditions. Although this issue seems obsolete in Australia nowadays, homelessness can indeed target any individual. Among several causes of homelessness in Australia, over 35 of those are resulted from domestic and family violence, where females are mostly the victims. Therefore, the client for this project comprises a single mother in her 30s with a 6-year-old child who fled from home as a response from domestic violence, even aggravated by their limited financial status to sustain life. Before we actually design, we ask ourselves our question of what factors for us as clients would make a house to live in forever, until we discover that it consists of unique and playful elements that makes it more than just a place to reside in. On the other hand, the investigation of a site in Fremantle and the surrounding cityscape informs the material palette and level distribution of the design to maintain visual consistency while combining the traditional and modern, added with a few unique features to accommodate flexible, child-friendly living. Next. The site suggests the importance of maintaining visual and acoustic privacy, given that it's surrounded by food outlets and educational buildings. It also respects the current circulation, such that compact external stairs can be lifted to ensure ample space for pedestrians and vehicles. Next.
The design also adapts to the neighboring buildings, such as incorporating a corner window running both stories to give view towards the existing greenery, while the south wall is partially offset to give space for the existing vents and windows of the neighboring building. Considering the elements of playfulness, a stairway is coupled with a slide which gives more playful means of circulation for the child, turning the house into an individual playground. Next slide, please. This is the program layout, which shows this flexible spacing and the interiors. Next slide, please. As seen here, the level distribution of the house is nearly similar to those of the neighboring buildings. And with a sloping roof towards the north, the house acts as a glue between the existing buildings, unifying the row of buildings on Moat Street. Next slide, please. The timber slats on the glass allow daylight, whilst providing allowance for the integrated greenery, like climbers and creepers to grow on it. Next slide, please. And yeah, this is the overall section of the building. And section BB shows the house which is elevated on columns, which also allows the access to the existing driveway and parking on the rear side of the site. Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. That's right on time. Any question, please?
Could I ask you to talk through the materials a little bit more, just to provide a bit more understanding of your response? Obviously, you've presented a lot of the original, I guess, the common materials in the precinct, yes. But how have you responded that particularly? Just a little bit more detail on that.
Well, it is rooted from our site investigation, actually. So we discovered that the surrounding buildings are made of limestone or brick, usually raw or painted. Yeah, so our goal of the design is to blend itself with the existing cityscape while combining with a bit of modern materials. And so, yeah, such as glass to maintain the important views of its surroundings.
And we've used like timber slats to have privacy, also allowing daylight within it. And the rest is brick, the red brick, yeah. If that answers.
Yep, thanks.
Can I ask, in your site analysis, you've identified noise, which I think is an interesting but an important component when living in a city like Fremantle as opposed to the suburbs. And I'm just wondering how your design responds to what you had discovered. You've got quite a high concentration in one particular area.
Well, in response to the acoustic, the noise concentration, the predominance of the solid brick walls, they provide not just from a mass because of its double leaf and the cavity between it, but they also provide a good acoustic insulation from the critical parts. Like for instance, the northeast corner of the building is blocked by those solid walls, and in the first floor it's further can further weaken the noise coming into the dining room.
Thank you.
If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you.
That's okay.
I wonder if I can extend that to other environmental concerns around ventilation, perhaps, and also daylight.
Oh yeah. Well, we mostly focus on daylight here, as you could see that the north-facing rooms, they are fronted by the balcony, so it's to provide like outdoor living space. And if you could see the dining room, we try to make like this sliding door
and a window,
yeah,
which provides ventilation as well as daylight, so it can work cohesively.
Yeah, and as well as the second floor, we include like a balcony that faces north. Yeah, but I think they're blocked by solid walls, so maybe we could have put the windows on the side of the balcony.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other question, please?
Perhaps one it's a little bit cheeky. The 6-year-old child using the retractable stair at the front was an interesting solution. But I also wanted to ask, I suppose, in the sense of arriving at someone's front door being a really important experience, the pros and cons of having a retractable stair. On the one hand, it feels like a drawbridge, which is you can pull up and that makes you very secure. But on the other hand, it feels like you've given away your front approach to the house for others to use. So did you sort of discover that conflict yourselves, or?
Well, yeah, it does sort of, like you said, take away a bit of the entry experience. But then, in order to reserve the parking, that was sort of our main idea. I think that was what was going through our head. But we sort of, I think the drawbridge was mainly focusing on preserving what was there on site and not to take away much of it, and just having something on the ground floor for the like for the entry of it would not have made that much justice to the whole design that we were looking at, I think.
Yep, I can totally see the 6-year-old getting the shits with mum and pulling up the drawbridge, and that's it. And then spending the rest of the day going up and down the stairs and coming down the slide. So that's fun.
Any other question, please? Okay, if there's no more question, we move to next group, which is group 12, Carlo and Monroe.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Carlo, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good. Monroe?
Yes, I'm here. Unfortunately, my
Okay.
camera's not working. Apologise in advance.
That's all right. I'll make you slide. Just to let everybody know, we get a 10-minute break after the next slide, so everybody can get a drink, go to your toilets and all that stuff. Okay. Kiss your loved one if you miss them already.
Make a coffee.
My barista can't make a coffee that quickly.
Hang on. All right, guys. When you're ready, fire away.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I'd like to say good morning. So can we go to the next page, please? One. Okay, so first of all, I'll just like to introduce our character. So the key subject for the design is Frederick and his dog Nietzsche. So a little bit of sort of background to this is Frederick recently became homeless due to his position at work becoming redundant, and he was not able to afford rent, which led to his eviction and then homelessness. However, sort of this place not only aims to provide him with means of getting back on his feet by providing him with a shelter and a means of sort of a base to sort of start from scratch again. And, you know, in regards to not being able to afford rent, maybe there's some sort of levy or some sort of scheme where he doesn't pay for the first 6 months until he's able to find a job. And then sort of there's some means of contribution for the housing. But it's more about sort of providing security and a place of, you know, reprieve and means of getting back on his feet after losing a job, especially in such a tumultuous time where some jobs becoming made redundant and there's sort of areas of employment becoming shifted to other fields with the rise in technology and whatnot. From that, I think I just sort of sum up our aim, which is to design a dwelling which assimilates with the existing fabric of Fremantle, whilst providing sufficient and modern amenities to ensure a comfortable standard of living, but keeping in mind a very small space in order to accompany the site. So if you go to the next page, please, Swan. The site plan, obviously we've used as much of the block as possible, and obviously we try to get as much of that north light in as possible. If we go to the next site, please, Swan, the next page. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a walkthrough. We've pushed, so the entry is on, sort of on the side where the car parks are. And what we've done is we've set the entry back from the street front. And means for doing this one is to avoid the facade of the existing building next door to the site. But then also to keep in mind, what we want to do was we want to separate the laundry from the main upper floor living, because we've only done a single story living space because we were really conscious about space, budget, and also the clientele for this design. And so we've decided that we could have a small laundry on the ground floor with means of storage underneath the staircase, and then that laneway to the laundry can be used as a means of hanging out your washing or hanging out clothes racks to dry your clothes, because there's a sufficient space just to hang that up and then squeeze through and then get back upstairs. And then if we go to the first floor plan, we've got the stairs, and then, back on that page, please, Tuan. We've got the stairs, and then just before you enter into the actual house, it's an undercover space, but the idea behind this is a place where you can sit down, take your shoes off before you enter your house, to sort of, you know, it's about sort of respecting your house and sort of trying to maintain a nice, clean environment. And then when you enter your house, you have the main master bedroom to the right with a door. And so there's only 2 doors, or 3 doors, including the bathroom door on the first floor. And so the idea behind this is we've put a long curtain which separates sort of the guest bed and a little sort of outdoor courtyard balcony which has north light. And so the idea with this is that we wanted to open the space up as much as possible to make a small area seem a lot bigger for entertaining, and then it has the ability to be closed off and demarcated into smaller areas. And then so basically in regards to his dog Nietzsche, we've provided Nietzsche with 3 sort of outdoor areas of play or reprieve or sleep, depending on if he's an outside dog or inside dog. So he has the little courtyard to the top left-hand corner, or he has the courtyard at the bottom of the stairs or at the top. And you're probably asking, what about security? What about protection? Well, the whole building in itself is wrapped in a sort of a cordon steel mesh, but not entirely, which will be more evident in the future slides. So if you go to the next page, please, Swan. So this is the street elevation. So we're trying here, the main thing that we want to really respect, and you'll see this better in the visualizations, is we've kept the car park And the shape of the car park, we want that to repeat the other shapes of the buildings to the right, whereas on the left, the entry door into the building has an arched doorway. And then basically just above that, you have these really geometric sort of triangular forms. And that idea is meant to bring in a new form or shape to this existing fabric of the surrounding environment or built typology. Next page, please, Tuan.
Yeah. So with these elevations, we're just seeing some of the north-facing windows on the side elevation, and as well as one of the windows that will allow cross ventilation through the building and taking advantage of that Fremantle Doctor breeze, and as well as some potential for some solar panels on the north-facing roof, which you can see on the side elevation. Can we go next page, please? Yep. So going back to that cotton steel mesh, yes, it provides some privacy and security, and also provides like a visual stimulus from the outside when looking onto it from the courtyard that's next to our site. And the color of this cotton steel mesh also is a response to the materiality of Frio with all the red bricks that you can see, as well as some of the red render painting. Can we go next page, please? Yeah.
Yes. So section B, we have here just to cut through the master bedroom, the little study.
Hurry up, guys.
And then the guest bed, and then the sort of open dining and kitchen area. But that's looking onto the courtyard. Next page, please, Tuan.
And here we will see like the volume and height of the spaces, and which was quite important for dwelling this small. Next page, please. And then here we started to think about the structure, which is basically steel columns and beams on the bottom with a timber framing on top for the first floor. And next page, and you'll see the visualizations.
Yes, so in regards to the visualizations, we looked at the color palette, and sort of the main colors that we want to sort of assimilate, or the building to assimilate with, is sort of like a red brick, sort of a whitewash sort of stucco, and timber as well as metal. These are sort of important elements and materials which are found throughout Fremantle, and we wanted to combine that within the design so it sort of speaks to the existing buildings without trying to copy or take away from the existing buildings, but rather to add or accentuate what's already there. Next page, please, Tuan. And so here we have a small walkthrough of someone entering the building, walking up the stairs, and then you see sort of their place where they can sit and take off their shoes. Then you've got someone walking through the front door, and then you sort of have a render of the corridor looking at the kitchen and lounge room with sort of the curtains that close off the open courtyard side doors and the guest bedroom. Thank you very much.
Any question, please?
I'll get started. Firstly, I mean, it's for the benefit of all the comments that I've been making. I quite like the explanation of materiality in the referencing of the feel of the existing materials in the West End, but not necessarily having to exactly replicate them, but replicate the feel of them, which is a good idea when you're suddenly building a lightweight building rather than a heavy building like most of the old buildings. I wondered whether, in terms of a fairly tight floor plan, whether the balance, whether you felt you had the right balance between fairly grand sort of approach to entry, but then a fairly modest living space and the small bed and the like. So did you feel you got the balance right between the spaces?
Well, I feel as though, and sort of the curtain and so the idea is that the main sort of living areas, you can open that up completely, and so that basically on that open courtyard, because those doors open up, and you have the curtain which can be drawn all the way back, that creates this really big sort of ground space in such a small area. And so essentially the dining, living, and guest as well as study can be opened up, and allows for a sort of, the main public living spaces of the area can be opened up, and you have a bigger sort of area, because in essence, you've got to, we're thinking what's he going to be doing in this room? How is he going to be living through it? What does he actually need? Does he need all these rooms and spaces and stairs and extra, we try to simplify it, but then also put in an element rather than just separating them with walls, using curtains and other ideas like that. We're able to both sort of create spaces where they can be opened up and become grand, or you close them with curtains, and then so it sort of allows for this ability to demarcate areas and sort of create a hierarchy between the private, which is the bedroom or the 2 bedrooms, and then the rest, which is public, as well as the bathroom, which is obviously private. But I feel as though, especially with that little courtyard that opens up and creates a bigger space, that we sort of, I feel as though we achieved a nice balance for such a small area, definitely taking into consideration the clientele and sort of the aim of this building, which is to house people that need immediate housing on a budget, and not creating grand always sort of, bourgeoisie or sort of like upper middle class sort of housing, which, is quite common within Fremantle or, places like city where they find a small block and they want to maximize the site. And saying that the reason why we only chose a single dwelling is we took into consideration the window on the existing house, and that slope allows for light to still reach into the building, that window, without sort of taking away from the other building. We didn't want to create this big volume that wants to dominate the 2 buildings to the other sides. We wanted to create a respectful building which presents its presence, but it doesn't want to challenge the existing fabric of the area. It just wants to, accentuate what's there without, it wants to be seen but not heard. That's what the old historic buildings are for.
And it looks very efficient. I mean, obviously it's a very tight floor plan, but it also it just inherently feels efficient in terms of construction. And I'm just wondering what your thinking was in that sense.
Well, when you look at a lot of housing, especially in Europe or Vietnam, for example, as well, there's very small, tight spaces and you have to make the most of it. There's actually a house in Warsaw built in between 2 buildings, and the complete total width of the structure is 1.2 meters. So you have to be very efficient. It's just a steel structure. It's very, very small. It doesn't meet our BCA codes, but the idea is that it was able to fit everything in that was needed to dwell without sort of, excess space. And so our idea was to sort of maximize that through both use of materiality and just overall sort of composition. Carlo, do you want to add in?
What was the question again about the efficiency of the construction?
Well, I guess it was really, I mean, you've gone for a very efficient house. Have you gone for a very efficient construction approach?
Yes. If you go to the detail, that might show it best. So in terms of trying to maximize the amount of space, we went with timber framing, and we tried to stick with that throughout the first floor. And it's pretty standard construction. It's nothing too out there, except for maybe the mesh screen itself. And yeah, we think it's sufficient. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I mean, it feels like a shed on stilts, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the whole thing with the bottom floor columns though was to also maintain enough width for the cars to get past. So yeah, while it does feel like a shed on stilts, or it will look like that, it's also just to make consideration of the access for the cars.
Could you talk about why the external screening takes a different form to the roof behind it?
Yes, so essentially the external screening, because that's meant to, it's meant to create a barrier in one aspect, or barrier, a sense of security and privacy between the interior and exterior. So essentially the screen is for the public, it's for the outside. So much like Adolf Loos's buildings, how the exterior was meant for the public, whereas the interior was meant for the inhabitants. And so the idea is that we wanted to create this mesh that could be used as a form of sort of visual stimulation and sort of accentuation of the area, and which speaks to the existing buildings. And the reason for it being perforated is to allow the breeze as well as light to filter through. But then the white rendered stucco, like you see on much of the houses within Fremantle, especially a lot of the earlier sort of houses, the white walls, like those white exterior walls as well as the interior, they have a terrace, and then to get into the house there's a gate. And so the idea is that a lot of houses within Fremantle, not the sort of grand civic, sort of those grand civic buildings to opposite sides of this laneway, but a lot of the houses, they have a little terrace and it's got a gate, and that's a metal gate. So the idea is that we wanted to create a threshold between the public and private with an intermediary area, or a sort of a envelope that was able to adhere to both the public and private, and create an area that was, well, for the public, without it sort of completely enclosing and creating an area that was, you know, secret and didn't fit in, because, you know, the Horton steel is meant to replicate or talk to the red bricks and that sort of redness of Fremantle. So it's really about considering both public and private, and visual stimulus for the public and privacy, as well as ventilation and breeze for the inhabitant. And then, you know, those triangles, you know, that little roof jutting out, it's meant to sort of provide intrigue, as well as sort of this idea that there's something behind the screen. It's sort of like a ghost in the shell. You get this idea, or like a black box somewhere, you know, people start to question it, and there's a sense of curiosity. And then the shapes of the mesh, you know, you have this arched doorway, but then you have this sort of rigid entry for the car park that speaks to the existing buildings on either side. But then this triangle, this new structure hidden behind the mesh, it is of a complete different geometric form to the existing buildings, hence why it's set back even more. It's meant to show something new and different within this fabric, but in such a way that it doesn't detract from the other buildings. It's meant to provide, you know, like a little bit of intrigue and sort of interest without being overbearing in its form and voice. That answers your question.
Thank you.
And
one last one, sorry. So you've obviously decided that size and budget are important factors in the design of this building, and you've chosen to design it over one level and make it quite small. But the building's still quite tall. I wonder how you justify the ceiling heights in such a small house.
Well, I think that sort of goes on, you know, you need a small area. How do you make a small area feel big? How do you make the most out of ventilation and everything, as well as sunlight? You know, high ceilings are, you know, it's been used within architecture, especially when you look at old terrace houses. You know, those old terrace townhouses, a high ceiling, and especially white walls in an interior, it just makes the area feel a lot bigger. And then obviously you get that light to come in. So if you go down to the renders, the interior renders, and I'll best describe it. The third one on the angle, you can see that north light coming in, and it sort of provides, because if that roof or that ceiling was a lot lower, the area would feel a lot more cramped and maybe claustrophobic. But because the ceiling is so high, one, it allows for the room or the house to breathe, but then also it allows for the space to have some sort of mass, or some, you know, it just makes it feel not claustrophobic colour.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we looked at was Michelle Blakely's example of that Twine Centos, and she said that maximizing the ceiling heights was also quite important in creating a bigger space, or a sense of a bigger space.
Lara, do you have a questions?
No, that's okay. It's been covered.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, Carla.
All right. If there's no more question, we take a 10-minute breaks. The next group is group 14. We skip group 13. They will present later because I don't think they're here yet. Okay, and be back in 10 minutes. Thank you. hommes ont failli passer. Hi, Lara.
Hey, Tuan.
You enjoyed so far?
Yeah, it's amazing what people can do
I
in a
know.
week. Oh my God.
I was shocked. I was shocked when I got all the submission last night. I was like, Jesus, they have really done a lots of effort.
I am constantly surprised by what students can do, Tuan. I'm very lucky that I get exposed to that almost on a daily basis. It's amazing. And I don't think I keep my expectations low either. I think that I just realized how that might sound. I don't have low expectations of students, but my expectations are quite high. That they constantly exceed them. It's amazing.
I got a message. Just hang on a sec. All right. Let's move on to the next group. Amin and Damien, are you guys there? Group 14. Catalyst.
Yeah. How you doing, Tuan?
I'm good. All right, I'm playing your slides now, number 14. All right, guys, you guys can fly away when ready.
Yeah. In an environment that responds well to a user's interaction, establishes a sense of security and confidence in one's surroundings. Therefore, we believe that establishing permanence is derived from a considered architectural design, meaning we have considered both the obscurity of the site, the micro scale providing information concerning principles of sustainability for the site elevated into public space, as well as the macro context presenting the accessibility of services and facilities to our selected demographic, a mother and her child. Our character belongs to the demographic most susceptible to the homelessness situation, providing an opportunity to express the complexity of transitioning from sleeping rough to achieving security. An analysis of the macro context of East Fremantle revealed the walking accessibility to services and facilities that could benefit our occupants. Opportunity for primary education, community engagement via public parks, and easy access to public transport provides connections to the Greater Perth area, all contributing to the development of a healthy personal and social lifestyle for both the mother and child.
You can move on to the next slide. This is site plan. It just allows, sure. First off, the entry is in addition to an existing staircase, which is parallel to the existing southern building. This is not to obscure the parking traffic, as well as having a private and secure entry. And it also allows inclusion and opportunity for interaction with the community around them, as opposed to being standalone. The site conditions limited the use of the north and south windows. So the use of atriums was established to maximize sunlight within the home. Each atrium was considered strategically not to be too large, and also manual roller shutters were attached to them so they can control the amount of light and heat that enters the house. The east and the south openings allow for cross ventilation from the upper floors and the lower floors. The balcony positioned to the back of the complex is one utilized for laundry, gardening, and it can be closed off using timber panels, because it is at the back of the parking lot. We're conscious of privacy concerns, so we allowed movable shutters to be opened and closed. To maximize space, we created 3 levels on this site with centric void solar chimney. I'll get to that in a moment. This also allowed the typology of serial progression to emerge, which allowed the clients to fully utilize and move around the whole building itself. For the maximization of light and passive design, a solar chimney was created which penetrates through all 3 levels of the house and allows the sun during midday to directly shed its light on the thermal mass wall in the middle. Now, the public space, which is on the 1st level, is completely open and can be separated with the use of curtains, which Damien might add on to later, and you can see in the diagrams. But the top 2 levels are somewhat closed off. This is to ensure privacy and acoustic values. The upper rooms all have, again, strategically placed atriums, conservative sizes with roller shutters attached to them. Damien?
So considering the intended exploration of a new routine and lifestyle, a dynamic environment that encourages the occupant to interface with space and form and rewards them for doing so is favoured. Providing an environment that does not restrict the occupant to conventional ways of life, but instead provides an interpretive vessel in which they can manifest personal comfort. And if you can just go to the next slide, that's one. And to the next slide again. You can see through, for instance, dining, placemaking, solar dictation, and wind dictation, that the home is a vessel, an interpretive vessel that allows the occupants to dictate their personal comfort. And if we go to the next slide, thanks. And to the next slide again. And the next slide. So you can see from the perspectives as well. And then, final slide, thank you. So interaction with the internal spaces as well as external surroundings helps transition the occupant's lifestyle by providing opportunities to achieve permanence in built form. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Question, please.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued. The slide that was about the conducting the space. You had the sort of placemaking and ideas and everything. How is that transferred into the actual design? Are there features in the building that provide that sort of placemaking? Maybe just go into a bit of detail.
Go on the floor plan.
Yeah. So, for instance, if we're talking about dining, considering the narrowness of the site, we sort of pushed all of the services within the home to the walls to maintain sort of continuity through the house. So with the dining table, it actually retracts up onto the wall, and it requires the occupants to sort of put it down or lift it up at their discretion when they're having dinner or if they have guests over. And then if you just go to the slide without, so the 5th slide. Sorry. The 5th slide. You have, dining, you have the ability to conduct space based on whether you are eating or not. Then placemaking, the curtains are installed to enable them to sort of create intimate spaces or open spaces once again at their discretion. And solar and wind dictation is based on their personal comfort of how much ventilation they would like and how much solar interaction they'd like.
If I can expand on that quickly as well. Although our full vision wasn't realized because of time management and restraint, the intent was to allow the occupants. We tried to find every opportunity possible for an interaction between the occupants and the house itself. So with the panels, with the making place of curtains separating space, like a pseudo separation, and they can dictate which space can be separated to the interaction with the dining table to bring it down, it's time to eat, bring it back up to the laundry. We have sliding shutters, mostly around every opening on the external walls. It's just allowed them to dictate how they use that space. It's that differentiation between a house given to them and a home that they made or make themselves rather.
I have a point of, just for clarification, I'm not familiar with the details of the site, but you're the only one so far that's used that existing stair?
Yes.
Can you just tell me a little bit about that existing stair?
Well, we went to site and I was walking around the site and I was scratching my head. I said, where is this stair going to go without obstructing both entry and exit of the cars, especially if you consider if one is exiting and one is entering at the same instance. That type of traffic was a concern to me, as well as the suspension of the house in terms of columns. So at this point, we're taking photos from the external, and there's if you go to the last slide, please. So you can see this big arch door, and I was facing the site on this level, and I watched someone exit this building, and I got a little curious. So I poked my nose in a little bit and took a look around, and I realized that there was an existing staircase that went up around 2.5 to 3 meters. So I thought, instead of trying to add a staircase and then worry about privacy security, I thought, why not use this existing staircase, which would be a small addition. So in terms of heritage and demolition and new construction, it would be very minimal. And like I said, to reinforce that point of community and interface with that, it would also allow not also like a private entry, but that chance for interaction with the community, you know, which can be somewhat difficult for someone from a homeless in terms of point of relation and stuff like that. This will give that opportunity.
Thank you.
Could you explain how the thermal chimney works and how it enhances amenity on the first and second floors of the building?
Certainly. If you go to the second last slide, just the renders. So because there is 2 to 3 levels and there is a suspended slab and there are limits to the north facing and the south facing windows, north being predominantly where the sun would come in, there was, on the northern building, just to give a little more context, there is a window that looks directly into the north of our building. So if you had windows there, I feel like you put blinds there, but those blinds would constantly be closed because of privacy issues. So I decided that, we decided that, pardon me, that a solid chimney would be created. And you can see in the middle of the first render how it's a void there, it completely goes right through. So that solid chimney would provide, which is directed at the northern sun, would drive, allow light to penetrate and bounce off the white walls throughout the whole building. This was the main target idea, and then strategically put in a thermal mass, which could act as a load-bearing wall as well to allow that passive thermal fly effect, heating and cooling. In terms of aesthetic and feel and atmosphere, it also allows a play on geometry, which is just a little more interesting rather than a box. Yeah.
Is there a reason you blocked it off from the second floor? Didn't use it as a tool to bring light into your upper floor?
If you go into one of the axiometrics,
Yep.
you can see that the top floors all have their individual atriums against street. So if you go onto the floor plan, pardon me, if you put your attention to where the first and the second bedrooms are located, both of those have an atrium, as well as the bathroom and the hallways and the stairs. All of these atriums are quite conservatively sized. It's just to allow light in and then be able to have a roller shutter, which is more practical to close and open. Both the bedroom 1 and 2 have windows which face the east and the west. So so that allow more light to go through. But the main concern is because we were using a suspended slab and we're closing off the second and the third level, that no light could penetrate into the first floor. So we decided the void and the solid chimney would be best. If you go onto the axometric, you can see how it looks in that sense. Now, a little bit of a self-critical critique is, again, the time limitations. Me and Damien both feel a little bit more could have been done in terms of the facade and the aesthetic. But in terms of principle, we always thought that the orientation, we're trying to change someone's routine, habits, and morals through a built form. So how they lived in that form rather than how that form looked took priority for us. You can always make something pretty, but if that thing, pretty thing doesn't work, then it's a little shallow in that sense. And thus it was more of a blank canvas and a skeleton to work on in terms of exterior aesthetics.
Any more questions, please?
I always like to throw a quirky question in, as you probably already worked out. The Juliet balconies on the street seem to have a double balustrading thing going on. It's almost like a balustrade hung off a balustrade. Can you explain that a bit? Sure.
It's a Juliet balcony, one that opens up, and if you go onto the last elevation, the last slide, we decided like timber frame panels which could slide to cover the windows. This was, again, we made mention in a couple of the meetings about visual cues and the connection to the context, which the majority of the buildings around were colonial and federational. I mean, it's more of a gesture towards that type of connection. Those balustrade on a balustrade is actually a garden box to allow gardening and to allow some vines or some plants to grow downwards down that actual balustrade itself. We had the same idea for those panels, the timber panels as well, to allow a little greenery into a street with not much greenery at all. It was the main reasoning behind that.
Yeah. Now I see that you were sort of exploring ideas, and obviously within the week, you can't always resolve them, but you're exploring a range of ideas there, clearly.
Yes, it is somewhat regrettable that we neglected the front facade, but.
Oh no, it's not regrettable. It's just an explanation often helps understand where you were heading with it, so which is good.
Appreciate it. Carlo wrote in the chat, how would using the existing stairs next to the door work properly, property boundary lines? I would love the idea of using it, as it also starts to challenge the idea of property and lines and the possibility to change them. So again, it was based on the privacy and inclusion within the community itself. And it just seemed like the logical, rational step to take if we consider the parking lot and the maximization of the usage or the utilization of that parking lot.
No, that's good. I mean, curiosity is certainly a critical part of problem solving, and you've been curious and explored it. Curiosity also killed the cat. So
I got away with it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation for the judging panel, I guess. But no, it's good that you explored that, and it may well be something that the university might like to think about.
That's where I thought you were going to go with that, Andrew. It'd be an interesting conversation for the city and the university to have a chat about.
Yeah.
Any more questions, or we move to our next group? Group 16, please. Tom and Katika. Nhật Quang Huỳnh or Katika. You guys there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tuan, sorry, did you receive my email that I sent? just before the.
Oh, yep. No, that's fine. That's fine, mate.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
No worry.
And also thank you to the judges here as well. Really appreciate you guys coming out and helping us out with this competition.
Agreed. Thank you.
I'll let you know if you win or not.
There you go.
Jamie, that's nice of you to say, but I'm just going to respectfully say that competitions don't work unless people enter them.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, true.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you again.
All right, we move on to the next presentations. Group 16. Okay. All right, are we seeing the screen okay? Guy,
yes.
Okay, just let me know because I can't see all everybody at once. I can only hear you guys. All right,
It's been working great.
Fire away.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Our purpose today is to introduce the growing house. Firstly, I want to talk about the background of the client, is Henry. The man, 25 years old, with his dog. In the past, he living in Perth and have some problem with domestic violence and unemployed. And in the prison, he sleeping through in the Fremantle, had the mental issue, disorder, and have some abusive behavior and drug addict. However, the aim of the design, we want to focus on the present and the future of the Henry. He need the safe permanent house and have some activity for the mental illness healing, and he also need the space to develop his talent regarding the art. And he want have some the space for interaction and talking part in a community. In the future, we also want to focus on the particular skill on proper living, and for the future family, his future family when he want to marry. In the next slide, the Katika will talk about our idea.
Next slide, please.
Yep.
Yeah, this is about the growing house. The growing house, the idea is they can develop their own space in the future, their family and their career. And we focus on the privacy as well. That's why we try to use this space in the back of this area, because it is the private space that they can live. And then as the time goes by, when they have already healed from their mental illness, they can accept the community and they can develop their space future. Like they can add the room for the family and for the art exhibition. And then we try to avoid the space like a balcony in front, because the behavior of the homeless people is maybe it's not like what we expect. If we add balcony, they maybe hang the clothes there, or they put some things that it can give negative impact for the surrounding. And then the material, we use the shipping container as a material to enhance the identity of Fremantle as the port city, and then combining the module of the car park below and then the shipping container upstairs, so it can applicable in every car park in the Fremantle. And the next slide.
Yep.
Yeah. This is the elevation and the connection. Oh, sorry. Can you please move previous slide?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is about the present. The character of our character in living in Fremantle, the positive thing is they almost every day explore the art in the Fremantle, like the graffiti, and we try to use this opportunity to involve them to paint their own house, to enhance the sense of belonging of their own house, and then to develop their life of the homeless. And then we can optimize this space as their future studio and the exhibition center, like the art activity, and can be used by the Notre Dame University also. And then can you move in the next slide, please? Yeah, and this is the connection with the surrounding. We try to contrast the building. We try to enhance the character of the Fremantle as the heritage, sport, and the creative city,
Please
and to attract, yeah, the pedestrian as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you finished? Ah,
yeah.
Right on time. Thanks, Guy. That was good. Any question, please?
I have just a point for clarification, just so that I can understand your project. All the projects that we've seen to date have occupied the laneway, not the car park.
I was, during the mentoring, Lara, there was, this is probably the only group that challenged the brief. And I did encourage them to challenge the brief, as some probably challenged them in a small way. This one obviously completely moved to the back. But the idea was we trying to generate ideas, and as long as the idea is valid, we still consider to be entries. And that was...
and I noticed there are still cars parked there. This is just located in a different spot.
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you. And so can I ask a point of clarification also then, just to Tom and Kartika, are the shipping containers used for all of the structures or just for that front one? I think on one of your plans it had a, just for that pink area that you've coloured there, is that the only shipping container, or are they all shipping containers?
Oh, actually the shipping container is used for all the construction, but the red color here is, we can substitute, we suggest to substitute the shipping container into another material like the wood and then panel, because the red one is the bedroom. And as we know, the shipping container is very narrow, only 2.4 width, and when and then the height is limited as well. That's why we combine the module, the car park module, which have 2.7 meters, and then and we can use that module, and we can change the bedroom, not made from shipping container, but from another material.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we can follow the module, the car park module, not the shipping container module.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just talk a bit more about the future of the project and how you've designed it to evolve and eventually interact with the street. How does that work?
The future?
Yep.
Yeah. The first, we try to find the place where the homeless can feel this safe place. So we try to put their house in the back, and then for the future, as they develop their skill, and they can involve the community and engage the community, and they can build the like the public space. It is for art exhibition. Yeah, and then the university, Notre Dame University, maybe if there's any event, they can use this also. Yeah.
Yes. We create some of the modules here for the future. One module for the exhibition on the left, and one module for the client on the right, the module for the module for his family in the future. We have some the module of the shipping container include the living room, the toilet room, the bedroom. If he marries, he can ask the new the new module over there. And if he want to focus on his career, he can add some the module on the left side, and he connect with the Notre Dame University by provide exhibition, and the student in the Notre Dame University can visit his house and have some the activity relating to the art. Yeah. Any question?
Is the intent, I like the idea of the utilisation of that corner space in the courtyard where cars obviously can't park because it's the corner. Is the intent that your client has that courtyard for their own personal use, or is that sort of shared space, or?
The courtyard, do you mean the courtyard here,
So
near the stairs?
Yeah, so where the stairs come up, obviously there's no possibility of parking cars there because it's the corner. So is that the intent that becomes your client's own space? I mean, obviously they very much occupy it, but was that your intent?
The intention why we have that courtyard is because the client have the mental illness, and as we know, the proper house will provide the outdoor space also to feel the air and then to have some greenery. So, and it can heal, it will support the mental health healing as well. Yeah, because it is not good if the client will stay in the house and then doesn't have the open space, open air area. So we try to utilize this garden, for them. Yeah.
And the big long sections of, I guess, open containers that stretch out towards the street. Do you want to just clarify those a bit too?
Oh yeah.
Yep. So those what that's about.
Oh, this is we assume in the future they will develop their career relating to the art because they explore the Fremantle for a long time, and then this space is a public space where if they already heal and then they already have the career, it will provide their own exhibition.
Yeah. One more thing why we ask some of the model over there is will be get some more the benefits for the car, but it will provide the setting for the car behind the car over there. It will help for the car in the car, but reduce the temperature in the car in the future if we have some of the module here to provide the setting.
Yep.
Okay. Shall we move on to the next one? I'm just conscious of time. We're about to run out of time. If no more questions, we move to group 17. Is Isabel and James? Are you guys there?
Hello.
Okay, good. I'm gonna play your slides now.
Thanks.
Everybody see the screen?
Yes.
All right, Isabel, fire away.
Oh, thanks.
Cool. So our presentation is called Cloud House. And next slide, please. So the site is on Moat Street in Woolloomooloo. And our character is based on the life of Jesse Argyle, whose story is shared in the novel Shadowlines. Jesse holds a deep connection with the sky, ground, and water country, which we were able to read from the chapters of her life. We have aimed to create a house for Jessie that adapts with her changing needs while maintaining a strong connection to country. Next slide, please. Cloud House floats above Moat Street and casts a shadow. We have removed some of the brick paving to reveal country, built a letterbox, and provide a welcoming front entrance. We aim for a field of colour like Rothko's white, red on yellow painting, and the provision of shade like clouds from the Stirling Range. So you can see, oh yep, thanks. And so we had our concept model before, and here is our concept painting, Rothko white, red on yellow. And now Izzy, thanks.
So I'm just going to talk through the plans in the voice of Jesse Argyle, our character. So on the ground floor plan, I had a nice chat with the Vice-Chancellor this morning as he met one of his guests who parked in the car bay under my house. He complimented the plant that is growing beyond the staff room window on my second floor. Next slide.
Just the chapters as well.
I like how I can securely lock my bike up underneath the stairs. And I sit at my letterbox to chat to Notre Dame students under the shade of my house. Next slide. So back to chapter 1 on the first floor. The semi-transparent screen protects the herbs that I have planted from the strong ocean breeze while still letting in lots of light. The peppermint is growing well. It's my favourite for tea. I love to watch the sky from my bay window in the living room. Next slide. I was able to safely store all my diaries and childhood photos. I really cherish them now. And the light in the bathroom flows down, rain falls through the central void, and the shutters glow in the sun. It makes me feel like I'm in a cloud. It's nice to work from home in the study where the screen is up for privacy while still maintaining a connection with the outside. I have many stories to tell from my childhood. The study is a great space to have time to reflect on my life and write my memoir. And I think that's all.
Thanks.
Right on time, guys. Thanks. Any question, please?
Yeah, I'm intrigued, the shuttering system and how it operates, and what's windows and what's shutters, and yeah, just perhaps talk through the shutters and how they work.
Yeah, we have shutters on the outer leaf of the building. And so they would be mechanically operated, just with like a pulley sort of system. And then on the inner leaf, you have a sliding shutter. So we've tried to remove sort of the need for any glazing in the building.
Yeah, so on the east facade, the shutter could be used as sort of a canopy or an awning at the street level as well, if wanted.
Yeah, and we've chosen a semi-transparent material for the outer and sort of inner leaf. Yeah, to let in plenty of light if both leaves are closed, and then obviously they can be open. They can be both open, or the outer open, the inner closed, or both closed.
So the idea was to give the client sort of free rein on how private or public they wanted to feel in the house. And the ideas of them opening downwards was because of the courtyard used by the Notre Dame staff. That sort of would still keep you'd be able to open up to the sky and the country, but still have a bit of privacy from the people down below, or you could fully open up and connect with those people as well.
Any other question, please?
I just have one question, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I would just like some, I think that the words that you're using beautifully describe what it's like to be in this space, but I'm just wondering about some of the things that are being left up to our imagination, which might be around materials, and how you've resolved some of those more pragmatic details in this. And yeah, if you can explain a bit more about that, please.
Yes, so the materials on the inside, is that what you mean, Laura?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how it goes together. I think the space, the experience of being there is you've dealt with really well. It's just how this goes together as a piece of potentially built architecture.
Yeah, so maybe if I just talk through the plans again quickly. So this is first floor, so you'd walk up from the bottom right on the ground floor below, up into, you pass this sort of central void with that's open to the sky, so you sort of see through all the levels, onto the first floor, to the kitchen to the left, or down 2 stairs to the lounge room on the right. And the idea was sort of similar to Japanese housing, where stairs sort of divide up the rooms, and you feel that change between one room to the other.
And what's it made of, Izzy? Sorry, that was really my question.
So the outer skin was polycarbonate, and then the inside was, I think it would be just like a concrete floor.
No,
sorry, steel frame, and
it's
yeah.
You're good. It's so it's a steel frame structure, and you can see in this image the bracing for the slender columns, and then the floors would be a truss system, which would allow services to run through the thickened floor. And the steel structure continues up as the primary structure, and then you would have the polycarb connected to the steel structure. So yeah, that would be it.
Thanks, James. That fills the gap.
Thanks.
Sorry, I'm just trying to visualize this on a cold, wet, rainy day, and you got all the exterior things shut because of the weather. Is the only light source then through that central void? Is that how it works?
There's also just for the upper floor. If you look at if you look at the short section, that's one. Thanks. Yeah, there's also a clear story window that you can see allows light in from the north, and also we have just in the central part as well, we've sort of notched into the bathroom on the second level, where that plant sort of sits, so that the Notre Dame sort of staff room still gets some light in, and that light would hopefully also filter into the upper level. The first level would only receive light through the central void if all the shutters were closed. Yeah.
Do you want to explain the roof as well?
Oh no, that was it. Yeah. So you're right about the first level would only receive light through the central void if the shutters were up. But hopefully, being polycarbonate, we could choose if you were to test it, you could choose a certain transparency that would still let enough in, hopefully. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Any more questions? The last, maybe one more, and then we move on. If not, I move on to group 19. Okay, let's move on to group 19. Queen Ying and Sonita, are you guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
Perfect. I play your now. All right, share screen. Okay. Are we all see the screen? Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's fire away.
So I'm Sunita. I'll be doing the first half of the presentation. So basically our design is to satisfy the daily needs of the resident living there, and also to enhance their way of living, and especially act as a like private rehabilitation center or like a healing place, especially because I believe that most homeless people like have mental issues, and so our design incorporated a lot of natural lighting and outdoor spaces as well. Next slide, please. So for the entrance, we have the side staircase towards the inside of the driveway, because I believe that it gives a more private, and like it's less likely for people to casually enter your unit. And then I've arranged the interior with all of the public living spaces towards the front, because there's more noises, and I arranged the bedroom toward the back because there's less noise. Also, on the second floor, it's a roof terrace. It's partially covered for the entrance and the laundry equipment, and the rest is uncovered, and you can use it for because our character is a single mother that went through abusive marriage, and she's living with her son. So partially the space can be used as an outdoor playground for the kid, and also an outdoor lounge area for healing. And I believe that the resident will spend most of their time outdoors instead of indoors. And also you can we use the view of Fremantle to our advantage. So the rooftop terrace, you can see basically a panoramic view of the city of Fremantle. And we use the roof to cover it as a pitch roof, because most of the roofs in Fremantle is basically pitch, and we kind of like incorporate the same thing. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
So this is the front facade. We kind of like incorporated the large windows and a similar facade to the buildings next to it and around it and surrounding it. And this is the north side elevation. We also incorporate a lot of windows, basically maximize the lighting of the northern side. And if you go back to the previous slide, we also incorporated skylight, because basically this part is blocked by the building next to it. So we incorporated skylight to reduce using electricity. And yeah, I also maximize the space by designing storage areas and also a seating area to view the back courtyard of the parking space. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, previous slide. Okay. So in terms of the structure, the ground floor is composed of 7 columns with different arc span from one column to another. It has also matched the consistency of the street building, which a lot of them have used arc shape. There is to leave some spaces for cars to pass through the corner, so there's a place that hasn't had a column.
Hurry up, guys.
All right, on the picture show left, instead of using those columns proportionally, there's a more aesthetic way to do it, which is about the golden cut. So from the northern or the southern facade of the house, you can see the house is separated by the columns in the middle. So on the right hand side, this image you can see roughly the separation forms a rectangle on the left and a square on the right. In some ways, it makes people feel safer, but it also has satisfied aesthetics. Next slide, please.
Yep.
So the material of the column is made of the sandstone, which is more localized material. Instead of using wetty concrete, some of them are very dense in terms of upholding the whole structure. The ground is kind of physically made of the material. It's built-in, easy to assemble and take off. On the outside of the wall, there are insulation and bricky cladding. Particularly, the insulation is not made of typical chemical materials. It is made of cheap wool,
You have to
which is 100% recyclable and more sustainable, and there should have heaps of Australia. Okay, so next one, please. And some renderings you can see indoor and outdoor.
Okay.
And that's all.
All right, thank you. Any question, please?
I'd just like to say, particularly to Sunita and Quinian, congratulations on entering when you're only in your first and second years. I think that's a great. It's great to see. Very exciting. Let me have a look. So I'm intrigued that this is one which once again has kept it to a single story, and you spoke about how you've used storage, but how did you compact it down into just that single story?
So if you go to the plan, so the front basically facing the street towards the front, I basically maximize as like the living area. So if you have visitors, all your kind of like semi-public place is towards the front. And then I just basically towards the back is just the kids' bedroom, the toilet, and the master bedroom. And I have all the laundry equipments up on the basically rooftop terrace. It's easier for you to like do laundry.
Mm-hmm. And that stair is uncovered. We've had some questions about how the stair is uncovered and it runs alongside. Is there a courtyard wall next to it on the other side?
So on the north side, that's where we located the stair, and basically it's not covered.
Mm-hmm. And does it run up beside the courtyard that belongs to the the building next door? Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, one thing I want to mention here that this whole structure actually needs to move towards left a bit because we just want to keep the heritage column of the left building, so we do some recession of that, and it's just a bit rush. We didn't arrange that.
So you're saying it should be pushed off the street a little bit? Back?
No.
So move back into the driveway, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To keep the column here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So, question, if I could, the way you've rendered the drawings in the last few slides, placing the building in a rural setting, is that? Can you sort of explain the thinking of that? Is that how the user experiences the building? Is that the idea?
Oh yeah, it is. And from this slide, you can see lighting is not good because we add a curtain on there. So we don't want to put so many windows because that will reduce the privacy of the house. And also we met the ventilation, so you can see we had we got windows from the left to the right when it's on the stair that direction. I'm not sure you can see that here. So this is very natural ventilation. And yeah, I mean, pretty much the rendering is to show the how it looks like in reality.
Thanks.
Okay. If no more question, we move on to the last two groups. Marie, May, are you guys there? Group number 6, Marie, May, and Runda.
Hi, Tawan. I'm here, but Rude was not here, so that's okay. I'll just do it by myself if
That's
that's
fine.
okay.
Okay, let's do that then. I can open your slides now.
Okay.
All right, fire away when you're ready, Marie.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Marie, and I would like to apologize on behalf of Rudra that he couldn't make it today. I have 4 slides today, just to give you a bit of a summary of what I'm going to talk about. For my first panel, I'll talk about the site analysis. My second panel, I will talk about adaptability, so identifying fixed and flexible spaces. My third panel, I'll talk about adapting openness to a space by breaking down boundaries. And finally, for my last panel, a little narrative of how Lily adapts to her new home. So here we go. We started off with analyzing the site. Our site is in Moat Street, centrally located in the west end of Fremantle. The west end was surveyed in 1833, with the west end laid out in a grid pattern, with High Street at the center. It's characterized by the narrow streets, small blocks, and buildings of similar size. Fremantle in general is inspirational city in a way that it brings together a range of stories that captures what is historically and culturally important. Walking down the streets, there is noticeably strong presence of heritage buildings. These buildings not only became an architectural symbol, but it also becomes Fremantle's fundamental essence, inspiring beauty through art. For us, walking down these streets, it has sort of like a feeling of a romantic and mysteriously well-preserved heritage buildings with an ambience of its narrow and intimate streets. What makes the West End flourish today is its ability to adapt, its capacity to be modified for a new use or purpose. This goes beyond protection of an area's built heritage or the preservation of character. The built environment, including structures of architectural heritage merit, has been constantly adapted to accommodate new needs and requirements. In return, this supports the local communities to develop and adapt while keeping the qualities and values connected to their history and memory of their locality, connected with heritage. So we then envisioned what kind of character that can be inspired by living in a district of history and culture. And we thought about how this site could help the future. We were looking at different, just slide number 1, sorry, Tuan.
You better hurry up, you already run 3 minutes.
Okay. We were looking at different types of homeless characters. Young people in particular are impacted by homelessness, making up to 42% of the Australian homeless populations. We wanted to design a space for a young character. In this case, her name is Lily, a teenage mom, along with her 4-year-old son, Jacob. Slide number 2, please. So what is adaptability? In a simplest explanation, it's the quality to adjust to new conditions. Over the course of a building's lifetime, change is inevitable, both in social, economic, and physical surroundings, and in the needs and expectations of occupants. For a space to be able to adapt means that it can be adjusted easily for different use and different conditions while satisfying the functions of each activity space. Change and improvements in the design of the building are as inevitable as ever-changing needs of man. The need for multifunctional spaces has been demonstrated in the adaptability of man to use single space for sleeping, eating, entertaining, and sometimes work. Slide 3, please. The internal idea is to create an open space, a sense of openness that enables the space to adapt to the person's needs. Openness is one of the two significant elements of adaptability, exploring a free-flowing circulation by breaking down physical boundaries that allows a multi-purpose use of space. A sense of privacy is a second important element of adaptability. Combining these two elements allows characters to make alternations to that space and their specific needs and expectations. The internal space were divided into two categories, which are fixed spaces, bathrooms, kitchen, stairway, and the flexible spaces are living, bedroom, dining area, and playroom. And slide 4, please, Tuan. I'm just going to tell a little story of how Lily adapted to the space through her daily routine. If you could just please follow the numbers as I tell her story, just so it makes sense. In the master suite on the second floor, Lily washes her face in front of the bathroom, and Jacob is full of energy watering his tiny vegetable bed on the roof terrace. The spirit and enthusiasm of her son brightens her day. She heads downstairs to the first floor and makes French toast like her foster mom used to do. After breakfast, Lily walks her son to school and stops by the local grocer to pick up the necessities for her dinner party that evening. Once she gets back home, Lily takes a moment to herself. She has made this somewhat a routine for 1 hour. Lily detaches herself from her worries and reflects on her troubled past by playing her favorite Alicia Keys and Adele songs on the keyboard. After she opens up her laptop and sends out another batch of resumes. By 3:30, Jacob rings the bell as he can't wait for his mom to open the door so he's able to use the toilet facilities on the ground floor. Lily's friends are two single moms who brought their kids along. As they sit in the lounge, they think about how she's transitioning to this new life. Lily is grateful that somebody took a chance on her, and because of this, she started to believe in herself that she can do it. Jacob is her heart, and she will always do her best to guide him so that he avoids the mistakes she's made. At this moment, Jacob plays happily with his friends in the adjacent room. The smile on his face just melts Lily's heart. The joy that brings Lily, she believes that life is unexpected, but life is all about adapting to space and to situations you never imagined yourself to be in. Now Lily and Jacob lives happily ever after in their new red brick home. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question, please?
I just have a very pragmatic one again, Tuan, just about the drawings show the massing and these drawings show the planning, but I'm just wondering about structure and how it's being held up over that laneway.
So the idea for the structure, it's cantilevered on the bottom from the first floor.
Okay, and the floor material is what's the floor made of? You've spoken about the brick as a cladding material. I'm just wondering what's holding all of that up.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
You've spoken about brick as a cladding material. I'm just wondering what's supporting that. That's quite a heavy, massive material.
It looks like there's some connection. Marie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
The question is, what is the floor material?
It's concrete.
Okay.
Thank you.
And could you just talk about your decision with the way the roof slopes and why you've fallen it into the center of the building and not perhaps to the edges?
Yep. Because I was trying to maximize what we can do with the space. I wanted to give you a sense of a double visibility. Almost seems like a connection between the sky and the top of the wall, a connection between the character and nature. The reason why I had the roof tilted so that I can maximize and control the sunlight that comes in.
Okay.
Sorry, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any more questions? John, you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Andrew, you're good. Let's move on to the last group then.
Very nice presentation. Well done.
Group 13. Yi, Navi, are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
Okay.
Sweet.
I'm playing you now. Group 13.
Okay.
All right, fire away, please.
Yep. Okay. So I just quickly go introduction to our project. So the goal of this project is to help solving homelessness. So we want to bring back a sense of belonging and reconnecting our target client back to the community in a proactive manner. The story goes with a middle-aged man around the age of 40 by the name of James, who has gone through an unfortunate divorce, and due to his temporary issue, he has lost his job as a chef. So finding himself hard to get back to workforce again, he decided to pursue his dream instead of driven by his talents and hobby of cooking. So the house is to reflecting that message of a journey to fit in with the community vibrantly through the elements of adaptive flexibility and diversities. So given a small site to work with, the built form is to be easily constructed with a strategy of prefabricated lightweight paneling and materials. The house is consisting of 2 floors with an additional rooftop, where the ground floor is maintaining the driveway and access to the car park. Other sustainable aspects to the design includes the rooftop water storage, solar panels, and green boxes. So the lights are welcomed into the building playfully with more interesting facade designs and creative windows and glazings. So I will let Abby to continue with the next point, the next slide. Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, this building has 2 floors. The first floor was used for commercial and which is more like open to the public. So there are 3 zones in the first floor. The left-hand side is the study room, and the center part is the kitchen studio, and the right-hand side is the outdoor kitchen and dining area. So you can see the pictures here is the James kitchen studio, so he can prepare his food for Uber Eats in here, as well as film his online cooking class in here. Next one, next please. And the left-hand side is study room. And that piece of furniture is not only a desk, actually this can be a pull-out bed. So if you want to take rest, you can pull out the bed or make this room become a temporary guest room as well. And this room has a sliding door. So if you want to make the indoor area bigger, he simply open the sliding door. And for the right-hand side is the outdoor kitchen with dining table. So if you want to hold social gathering, he can use like that place. And this area also separated by sliding door as well. So actually he can merge these 3 zones together into one big area. And next slide, please. And going through the spiral stair, it's become a private space for him and for his cat. Actually, he adopted a cat during his homeless period, and he considered his cat as his close family member. So this area is cat friendly. The shelf on the wall is not only for storage, but also like the cat furniture. So his cat can have fun in here, and you can see even the bedroom door, there's a hole. So the hole actually is the pet door. So the cat can move really around in this door. And next slide, please. And we'll talk about the rooftop.
Okay, so we're climbing back to the rooftop again. So there's gonna be gardens growing for spices and vegetables for James cooking, obviously. And this house is actually beyond a space for sleeping. It's demonstrating a self-independent and self-sustainable methods that allows James to get back to his normal life and step further to help others as well. So can I go on to the next slide, please? Thanks. Also, this one basically going back to the second level. This is the second level focus on living. So this sliding door, and we're using the mirror panels in the middle to make the space feel a lot more extended. And if need to, we can push the sliding door back and the bedroom becomes open up and the bed can be folded away. So we actually have a model for that. And within the next, can I go next slide? Thank you. Next slide, thanks. And this is the first floor, basically from the ground up. This is gonna be his online kitchen channel, maybe his indoor kitchen, his outdoor kitchen area for him to for different events, maybe hosting a dinner or maybe for a school, for a class, cooking class. And the study room is very flexible as well. Same approach. We're gonna have a sliding door that can be opened up and sharing that one big space. So this is basically more of a semi-commercial approach for this floor. And the spiral stair is our leading guidance to the more private area, which is second level up. And can I go to next slide, thanks? So on our way down now, you can see the main structure is being holding up in like almost like a bridge construction here. It's very lightweight once again. It's coming up with basically steel frames, but then it's gonna be wood and chipboards for the interior wallings. And the staircase is located on the left-hand side. It's still maintaining the driveway, and we perhaps can have a bike parking underneath the stair. Can I go next slide? Thank you. That's quite a lot of slides, sorry. So this one we're kind of dissecting and showing these different floor planners and how they can be kept, come together, and how the balconies and etc. All these features are displaying here. And the next slide shows the positive possibility of maybe we could actually play with the space. Is actually modular massing. So then they're very easy to put together, and it's all prefabricated. We can actually alter the looks and the design features however he likes or suits him for his lifestyle. And the next one, thank you. The next one here's basically like a front facade. So the reason for this balcony is, first of all, we can have a lot of aesthetical view, and at the same time, it does not interrupt or destroy the overview of this neighborhood. And at the same time, they do serve purpose of bring up that vibrancy and this playful diversity into this space and give that good atmospheric vibe. And at the same time, for the occupants, there's a lot of activity I think he can take part on each individual aspects, and then we can use it for its full potential. So everything is very experimental, and there's a lot more we can explore into, such as the vines from the rooftop can actually extend down to the first floor backyard for cooking. And also that just gives just extra bonus for the overall theme. So yeah, thank you. That's for now.
Thank you. Any question, guys? Judges, please.
I'm really interested in the idea of the house as a job. That's really intriguing. I thank you for that. I'm interested in the design. I mean, I'm a very old school, but the design feels very much like laser cut, a laser cut model. Can you kind of talk through the aesthetic of that and the construction of that as well?
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned before, actually, we're using monotone stuff from the color. We're using kind of like a monotone color to not trying to overly overly make it to like contrasting with the neighboring. We'll be using similar color coding, but it's gonna be timber for the walling, and actually the only heaviest part is gonna be the first floor, because first floor we decided that it's gonna be kind of a semi-public open space, so then it will be a lot more people maybe come up to the first floor as a result. Therefore, the ground floor level, we can see there's a lot of like there's a lot of structural beam that actually support the loads. And then on the second floor up is everything very lightweight. They're all made into timber structure with coating, and then gonna be chipboard for interior for double layering and insulation, etc. And the space can be expandable, and it can also be taken away. So this can be plus or minus. So they are not one laser cut model. Each individual pieces, such as the balcony, each individual parts can be taken off quite easily, as they are just being putting together to show that kind of dynamic aspect, like on the aesthetics. That's about it. Thanks.
All right. I'm just conscious of time.
Just a quick question though, Tuan.
Yep.
I noticed, thank you for your presentation. I noticed that you've got quite a generous volume, and your floor to floors are quite high. And I'm just wondering about the neighbouring courtyard and the impact of that.
Oh, the neighboring courtyard. Yep. So the as it's being quite high up, we actually that's actually another reason why I have this kind of a display of the different glazing kind of patterns and stuff. Like they kind of do show a bit of deflective properties on the lighting to this neighbor. I can see the shadowing that is casting is actually not that great, as it's facing towards northeast. So the light shadow will be casting towards us. It's not going to interfere any of the lights to the like you said, my left hand side neighbor. But to the uni is actually we're kind of not leaning onto them, but we actually kind of considering there's a little window you can see on the right side. Sorry, there's a little window where actually keep it open for the uni, so then we do not block that off for them. They can actually perhaps the student interested in what he's cooking for today, you know, at the backyard. Maybe he's holding a class or something, or the smell gives off, and people just intrigued by what's going on here. It's always going to be interesting. So we just want to bring that activity up. So it's about proactiveness and want him to be more related with the site and more engaged with the surrounding. Yeah.
Thank you.
What have you got in the corner of your courtyard?
The corner of the courtyard.
If you go to the floor plan,
yep.
The concentric box.
Keep going. Courtyard.
This one.
Oh.
No.
This one. No.
In the rear courtyard, in the deck at the rear of the building.
I get it. The first.
I really
floor,
like the originality of the building too. It's and somehow, despite all the different shapes and patterns, it's it reads as a cohesive building. It's pretty hard to be original, and you've got a very unique looking building. So well done there. There, Tuan, you can see it in the corner. I'm just wondering what that is.
Of this, can you please highlight like those areas so I can have
right,
it clear? Around that corner. Oh, right. We are thinking planting maybe a little lemon tree there. It's like a little lemon tree could be planted, like small plants. Like maybe he's into bonsai. The reason why I didn't put the specific plants in because James could be Asian, he could be Western background. Who knows, right? So it's actually very flexible. It's flexible. But we do offer that kind of facility. We offer that kind of design aspects for it, such as rooftop. Actually, I can go further about the solar paneling and the sustainability that it creates as well. And it's more open space for himself privately. But then first floor, like I said, is main focus because it's like a kitchen studio based house right now. He may be hosting online channels for his streaming, or it could be,
Thanks, Yi.
No problem.
Can I invite all the judges into your private breakout room so you can do your moderations?
Sure.
Communities throughout the world. We've never really, I think in the past, given it some serious thought, but now is the time to do it. And I think that it's going to become more important, particularly if government supports fall away later on in the year. There's going to be a lot of people that could potentially end up as homeless, and we need to think about that. So look, thank you very much. You're all amazing people, and I think that the awareness around the issues of homelessness need to be spread much farther and wider. So well done.
Thank you. Cool. Without any further delay, I'd like to conclude today and thank you again. And we hope to do something similar again. And we won't stop from today. Okay. Thank you again. Bye for now.
Cool. Thanks for having us. Great episode.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Guy. All the winner, I will contact you for the prize. Okay. We might do some photo shoot or something.